Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we're going to talk about the timeline of events that's going to be happening here very soon with the pre-expansion, the pre-patch everyone calls it, and then the actual launch of the War Within, and then the launch of Season 1. They made this nice little graphic, it looks nice, and it kind of just puts everything to a timeline. I want to talk about it a little bit, and also just kind of give people an idea of what's happening when. So I've moved over here to Microsoft Paint just to kind of really quick increase the resolution on the image that they put out on their social media or whatever. And so when the pre-patch launches on July 23rd, which is as of making this next week, we're going to have access to a few new things immediately. And some things that aren't even listed here. So warbands are going to be available. So warbands are if you haven't kept up with warbands that much, is basically you get to put like 4 characters, I believe, into a warband, and they share access to everything. So there's even a warband bank that they share. They share access to like reputations. They share access to all kinds of things in the game, and so much so that if something is in your warband bank, I believe like when you go to craft, how you can craft items with, or you can craft items with materials from your bank. I believe you can also craft items with materials from your warband bank. I'm pretty sure I saw that tested somewhere. So warbands are just a huge quality of life feature. For anybody who's been playing the game for a long time likely has alts that they do something on. And not ever, but when I say likely, I mean like probably like 90% of people who've played for a long time, right? A large majority of people who've played for a long time have alts. And so if you do, this is just a huge quality of life for you. If you don't, it doesn't affect you that much, but you might be able to use the bank space or whatever, right? You can still probably find some advantageous ways to use your warband, and those will start with the pre-patch here very soon. We'll also have skywriting and dynamic flight for 400 plus mounts. So basically, most mounts that can fly in the game will be able to dragon ride, would be kind of the way to frame it if you play Dragonflight. So right now in Dragonflight we just have like the whatever 7 mounts or so, 7, 8, I don't know, mounts that you can dragon ride with, and then they changed it to where now you're with skywriting you're gonna be able to basically dragon ride on all the mounts, and they did some really cool animations for some of them as well. Some of them better than others, but yeah, some of the cool some old mounts have these cool skywriting animations now. It's actually really cool. You'll be able to use your favorite mounts again if you prefer dragon riding. Of course, there's some people who don't prefer dragon riding, in which case this doesn't affect you too much. But yeah, there's that. We also are going to have access to cross-realm guilds. So this is big for a lot of people. This also makes it so you can, recruit anywhere. One big thing that stops people sometimes from recruiting people or from joining, right? If maybe you just love your old server and your old server's very dead on the raiding scene or very dead in whatever scene that you're into. But you don't want to leave it for whatever reason, right? Now you can actually join a guild, cross realm, still get credit for being in the guild. Finally, kind of cutting down some of those barriers. It's something that gets talked about a lot. Actually, is like there shouldn't be any barriers between servers and all this kind of stuff, right? And at least in this way, at least in a guild way, this is another barrier that's being knocked down. So that's pretty much only a good thing as far as retail WoW goes. We're also going to have the Radiant Echoes event. So this is just one of those events, right? It's either going to be okay or it's going to be kind of bad, right? That's typically how these are. Now, normally the pre-patch events are usually actually pretty cool, but we'll see. So it's like the Fire Rack Assault or the Dream Surges, or not the Dream Surges, but like the thing where maybe it is Dream Surges. I don't even know. I don't even know what they're called all the time because I don't really do them that much. But all these different events that get added to the game. But what will be good for this is if you're a returning player, or if you didn't play Season 4, or the Awakened season in Dragonflight, or if whatever, you just are a casual player, whatever the case may be. Basically, if you did not play Season 4 at a medium to high level, this is really good gear for you to get for leveling up in the War Within. So if you're returning, you should probably do this, get some gear on you, go into War Within feeling a little bit powerful. It's not like super high end gear, but it's like normal raid equivalent or so. I believe it's in the 490s. Mythic gear is in the 520, so it's like 30 eye levels. So I believe that would be kind of like normal raid if I had to guess there. So you will have access to that as well. Something on here that's not mentioned is that I believe the talents might be updated, at least for some certain classes and stuff like that. I don't know that every change that's happened in the War Within is going to be immediately put in to the game, but I don't see why you wouldn't. It'd be a good way to get even more players to test out changes that they've made to talent trees. I would almost guarantee that some changes to talent trees are going to be available as well. So maybe you want to test out a new talent or whatever. Now, you will not have access to the hero talents yet because you actually just get those as you level up. They're basically just 10 extra talent points added. You know, this is kind of like an old method of World of Warcraft of adding talent points as you add an expansion. And of course, that created a lot of bloat. So I'm hoping this isn't a thing that that happens all the time with every expansion. Oh, here's 10 more talents, 10 more talents. It's just going to create bloat, in my opinion. But, you know, having a hero talent system in itself is not a bad thing. And so won't have access to those, but you should have access to some sort of changes to talent trees that have been made in the War Within. So that's most of the stuff that's coming with the pre-patch on July 23rd. And then, of course, we won't spend too much time on this stuff because you probably already know a lot of this. But early access, so that's if you pre-ordered the game or whatever, right? You don't get anything extra. You just get it early, right? It is just early access, which is good. I mean, if you're going to do an early access, it can't be too ridiculous. So the early access is 8/22, August 22nd, and the regular launch is 8/26. So in that, you get the new story. That just means the leveling up MSQ, the main story quests, new zones, of course, access to the hero talents as you level, access to the delves. So delves are really, really cool. If you are a casual player, delves are going to be kind of like your thing probably in the War Within. So access to delves, although not like the gear progression system of the delves, just access to doing the delves themselves. Access to the earthen and creating an earthen character. That's the new race. The 8 new dungeons, you'll have access to them. I believe all the way up through mythic difficulty, but again, no gear progression for it, no great vault for it, right? You can get gear from them, and you can get gear from delves, but no like great vault, you know, bonus gear or whatever. And the 8 new dungeons will be, of course, just like Dragonflight. It'll be the 8 new the War Within dungeons, and not the 4 dungeons plus the 4 mythic plus dungeons or whatever. And then, of course, there is a new PvP battleground. So we haven't got to say this in a very long time, but there is a new PvP battleground. You know, not much love for PvP these days, but you know, at least there is something, and we haven't got to say that in a while, really. And then finally, if you're curious of when season 1 actually starts, because that's one weird thing with World of Warcraft is they like to give time for players to level, right? That's something that they've always liked to do in some ways. And it's changed expansion to expansion, right? And there was a different attitude back in the day because you had to do your attunements, so it didn't matter if the raid was open because you still had to do your attunement. And that attunements were a way of time gating, right? And now they just straight time gate, basically. So September 10th, we'll have the Nurubar Palace raid open, and the Mythic raid opening a week after that. So 9/17 will be the Mythic raid. Mythic, they said Mythic dungeons, but I believe it's Mythic plus dungeons, unless Mythic is also locked under this new thing. It might be because Mythic drops really good loot now, so you might only have access to Heroic on the beginning part. Since it says Mythic here, I'll just take it at face value. So Mythic plus dungeons will be access, of course, the PvP season, same as always. The seasonal delves, meaning you can actually get progression on your delves and do your Great Vault and stuff like that, will be open. And of course, class tier sets, they just put that there because a lot of people like class tier sets, but it's kind of like a expected thing, I believe, at this point. So that's kind of like the timeline that they put out. Yeah, you know, it's obviously going to be a crazy, it's just about, you know, when this launches, it's just a month away, basically. So 5 weeks from when I'm actually recording this, and we'll be into all this stuff. So it's crazy. That's kind of like the timeline that you're working with. if you're a returning player, especially if you're a returning player who didn't play Season 4, but you are going to play the War Within, right? Or at least the beginning of the War Within, I definitely recommend getting on at some point for the pre-patch. You have a month, you know, and maybe doing this Radiant Echoes thing to get a little bit of gear. At the end of the day, World of Warcraft, you do need some amount of gear to usually do stuff, and it's nice to have something decent on when you level up, in my opinion. I always felt like it was very painful trying to level up without any kind of gear, especially once you've done it with a lot of gear. Then it feels extra painful. So that's it for this one. Just kind of want to go over this timeline. As what to do, ask you to please subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber to the channel, I encourage you to check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody have a good one.